Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
It's like a scene out of a Hollywood movie, except it's not fiction. Apocalyptic fires continue to burn in Los Angeles, including one in Pacific Palisades, which is being called the worst fire in the area ever.
Air quality here has significantly deteriorated over the last few days as those wildfires engulf the LA area, burning really everything in their path, releasing soot and smoke, plumes of it.
As actor James Wood says, who lost his house, one day you're swimming in your pool, and the next day you've lost everything. Water bombers are flying over the fires now. The fight is on to save Hollywood. How did it get to this point in LA? As accusations fly about no water and hydrants and a lack of a plan, we're on the ground talking to a Canadian who's in LA on high alert and ready to evacuate at a moment's notice. Life up in smoke in California. Today on The Big Story, we're talking to Aliya Jasmine, an environmental journalist and founder and executive producer of Earth Tones. Where are you and what's your current situation?
Hey, thanks for having me on. And I am currently safe, thankfully. My family and I have been on standby for evacuation for about 48 hours. We're very close to Malibu Creek State Park, which is currently on fire. So we're close, but we have not been evacuated yet. Our power has been on and off for the last couple of days, but so far we have stayed put.
I mean, what are you seeing?
You know, it's heartbreaking to see the city this way. To be honest, the last 48 hours for us it feels like a whirlwind. We are getting inundated with messages from our friends and family that live in the city, in different parts of the city, and just making sure everyone's okay. And, we've had 5 friends who have lost their homes in the last 48 hours. 5. That's families with young children with nowhere to go. And what we found in past fires in this area, of course, California is not a stranger to wildfires, but when this kind of happens, it's usually in one area. And you have a rest of a very large city with a lot of different landscapes to go to for shelter. What we've seen in the last 48 hours is every side of the city is getting hit. You're impacted north, south, east, west, and there really isn't a safe place to go to get refuge. The places that are outside of the evacuation zones have very, very bad air quality. So it is really, the word's been thrown out a lot by other friends and family that live in LA, but, it's being described here as Armageddon. And that's really what it feels like.
Because when you say they lost their homes, like they've lost everything inside, memories, like everything.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Phil, you've probably seen these images coming out on socials and online, but it is devastating. I've covered wildfires here in Southern California for various news networks throughout the last 10 years of living here in Los Angeles. And when these kind of devastation happen, I mean, you can't even comprehend the level of what the loss is. It's not just in the, in what you lose in your home, but the emotional toll it takes for years later when these families are going to go back to their homes, when our friends are going back to their homes to go and see what's left. That emotional toll it takes to even walk into the wreckage of what used to be your home is something that doesn't leave you for years. So it's not just the physical damage, it's the emotional damage, it's the mental damage. It's trying to find a place at 1 a.m. to go that takes dogs, that has stuff that's adequate for babies. I mean, it is absolute chaos for the last 48 hours here.
And what's it like living through this? It's like you're living through a news story.
Absolutely. And I think you'll be able to relate to this a little bit, Phil, is I've covered these stories as a reporter, but to actually be on this end of it where we're evacuating, where we're standing by to evacuate, it brings a whole other side to the story, to actually be the story versus actually covering the story. It's so emotional and you're just in this tornado. You don't know what's happening. All these different images are coming at you. And, I will say I've been inundated with incredibly loving messages from friends and family in Canada asking how we are. But I think what people don't realize who aren't here, and I'm just going to take a break to apologize if you hear that wind. The winds are still very high here. So if my audio isn't working great, it's the wind that you hear behind me. But the friends and family from Canada who are reaching out to us, it's been really hard to reply to everybody because our power is out. Those kind of things that you're juggling that you don't even realize are issues, are things that we're dealing with minute by minute, if that makes sense.
We're hearing all kinds of stories up here in Canada. Are things factual? Like, is there no water in the hydrants?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's really hard even for us here on the ground. As I said, we have limited battery power on our phones right now because so many of us are going through power outages. And so every minute that we spend looking for news information to find out what we're going through, where a safe place to go is, what the stories are, what the facts are, is so hard with the amount of misinformation that's being spread right now, even for all of us on the ground to know what is accurate and what is not accurate. And as an environmental journalist, you think I might be a little bit more equipped to understand the misinformation out there. And it is really hard to navigate right now. One of the sources that I have interviewed through the years here in Los Angeles is Fire Captain Eric Scott. He's a great resource. He's constantly posting on X. And he actually came out to say that, yes, there was some issues with low water pressure, but it wasn't for a lot of the reasons that very popular figures are currently spreading on socials. He said it was, there is a lot of issues with altitude of where a lot of these fires are taking place, up in the mountains, up in the hills. And so they are having trouble with the water pressure, but a lot of it's because of the excess amount of water that is being needed. There is a lot of water being used by airdrops and by choppers, and all these things put pressure on the water systems, which can make the water pressure lower. But there is water in all of the tanks, and the fire departments are doing what they need to do. They're doing it well. The state is doing everything that they can. The Los Angeles Water Department is filling up their water tanks. So those stories are actually untrue. But what it does is that it creates a lot more panic for people like us who are just trying to get information on how to be safe for us, for our babies, for our animals, for the next 15, 20, 30 minutes. It's making it really hard.
Now, how surreal is this? You're living in Los Angeles in the wake of the most destructive fire in LA history.
It's absolutely unbelievable. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. We're so deep into it that I think for a lot of us, we haven't even been able to wrap our heads around the amount of destruction we're seeing. It looks so apocalyptic. These places I drive by every single day, on the PCH, on the Pacific Coast Highway, through Malibu, by the ocean. You pass these places every single day, and to now pass them and everything look like it's Mars. I mean, literally everything. It's void of color. Everything is gray and white and black and ash. It is heartbreaking, and it just doesn't feel real. It feels like we're watching a movie. To have your best friends share videos with you of their homes, a home you were just in for a dinner party a week ago, completely destroyed, where the only thing standing is the fireplace. There's no living room. There's no roof. There's no front entryway. You see a few terracotta pots that you recognize from the front door, and that's it. I mean, it's so scary. It's so tragic. And I don't think any of us, the wind warnings are still high right now. We're all still in red flag warnings. Right now, we're still so deep into it. Myself, my whole family, we're all still on evacuation notice. We have all of our bags packed by the front door. I think we're just so deep into it that we haven't really wrapped our heads around the amount of destruction right now.
And what do you do when you have this, you're waiting to evacuate? What do you take with you?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think it's something a lot of people take for granted, even here, is to have these packs ready. Because I've covered so many fires in the past through my reporting, I've thankfully know what to pack. And I'm glad you asked me this question, because there are things that you really should have ready to go. And I know a lot of your listeners probably even, on the West Coast of Canada know this very well, but really important to have things like your identification, your passports, copies of your birth certificates, all those important documents near you. Also, a few days worth of food. flashlights because you don't know when the power is going to be off. Your chargers, those things are like really, really important to have. I just had a baby a few months ago. And so we have a bag, just infant formula, clean water. There's parts of LA right now that have boil water notices. So having clean water, having bottled water with us is something that's really, really important. So things like that. I mean, it's just when panic strikes and you have to go, it sometimes happens very quickly within 20 minutes to an hour. And so you don't always have time to, in that moment, think about running around your house and getting all the important stuff. So having those things ready and by the door in case you need to evacuate is really, really important.
Would you take any photos or anything like that?
Yeah, so one of the things that is really important, and it's a great point, is video. Use your cell phone and just take a video of what's around your house, take photos of what's in your drawers, because one of the things we know that we're all going to have to deal with in the coming months is insurance. If you've lost your house and trying to get money back from insurance, it's great to have those videos to show what you had in your house because you will not remember all the things in your drawers and your cupboards. So yes, pictures, videos, those are all important to do while you're waiting for evacuation and while you still have power, because that stuff's all hard to get on camera once you have no lights. And this is the thing people I don't think realize also when the power goes out on a scary windy night like this is that, on nights like we've had the last few nights, is that all the power in the neighborhood goes off. So there's no street lights. There's absolutely no lighting anywhere around. And if, for example, you have a gate in front of your house that is an electric gate, you have to keep those open because if the power goes off and you suddenly have to evacuate, you won't be able to get your car out of the driveway. So all these things are important to think of in advance and have not only an evacuation bag ready, but an evacuation plan ready.
Now, can you speak to what's causing these fires?
Yeah, I think it's this is one of those things that everyone is really struggling with on social. And what it comes down to is really, you're hearing a lot about how climate change is impacting these fires. The lowest hanging fruit to talk about here is the high winds. So we have extremely dangerous, life-threatening high winds that we haven't seen since I think 2011 in LA right now. These high winds are dangerous for many reasons. They're taking down trees, they're taking down power lines, and what that does is if any kind of spark were to happen, those winds really, really enable that fire to spread very, very quickly on the ground, but also take the embers from that fire and really push it far distances. So you're going to see these fires spread fast and very far, very, very quickly. The other thing to keep in mind is that we haven't had rain for a very long time here in Los Angeles. So when those sparks, when that fire hits the ground, our grasses, especially our non-native grasses, which cover our mountainsides here in the Los Angeles area, are basically sitting tinder, the same kind of fire tinder you would use to light a campfire. That is what our mountains are covered with right now. So one of those sparks hitting that mountainside can just really get those flames spreading very quickly, and then the wind pushes that fire, pushes those embers, and it becomes a very, very dangerous situation. Another thing to consider is these heavy, heavy winds can bring things down like power lines. And when those power lines go down, we've seen these in the past. We saw this with the Woolsey fire in 2018. Those power lines can also give off sparks, which can help ignite these fires. So very, very dangerous situations all around.
Now, officials are warning that the worst is yet to come. The Hollywood Hills fire burns. What's it like hearing that there's a 0% containment in areas where the fire isn't burning?
Yeah, it's absolutely scary for all of us. I mean, we're covered in gray smoke, right? No matter where you are, basically in Los Angeles right now, you're covered in smoke plumes above you. So the air quality is bad no matter what. It is terrifying when we're so close to the fire right now that hearing that there's 0% containment is really terrifying for us, but also not surprising because of these high winds. A few years ago, Phil, I was embedded with the aerial firefighters for fire coverage in this area. And one of the things that they told me that's always stuck with me is they can't, no matter how great they are, or how fast their choppers are, or how much the technology is advancing, you can't compete with winds, right? You drop the water, you drop the fire retardant, but if the winds take it away, it will not hit your landing spot. And that is terrifying. And we're hoping to see a little bit of containment, but the 0% containment right now, although not surprising, is terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. My husband and I have been refreshing our apps like every hour for the last, I want to say 3 days now, just hoping to see that 0% change, even to a 1%, a 2%, to know that they are advancing a little bit and to continue seeing it at zero, continue seeing our evacuation zones grow, continue hearing our friends looking for other places to stay, of evacuation routes to take, of houses being burned down. I mean, it's terrifying.
What's happening in areas where there are no fires? Is everything shut down or is it business as usual in those areas?
Yeah, a lot of things are shut down. So most schools are shut down right now in Los Angeles for many reasons. One is they want to keep people off the roads to make sure that the first responders are able to get everywhere. We all know about LA traffic and the gridlock here, so trying to keep people off the roads. Another reason a lot of schools and major businesses are shut down is because they need the space for evacuation shelters, right? They're using these places for people who don't have home or for animals that are displaced, things like that. So because schools are shut down, a lot of other businesses are shut down as well. And to be quite honest, so many people's homes and livelihoods are being impacted that to even ask many of us to go to work right now is impossible. A lot of the roads are shut down because these fires are happening in so many different places in Los Angeles. So yes, even for places where the fires are not being affected, which to be completely honest is very few places, the most businesses are letting people work from home or have the offices shut down.
What do you think it's going to take to recover from something like this?
I have no idea right now in the emotional state I'm in and, how deep we are, what it will take us to recover. I can answer this question to you as a reporter, as an environmental journalist who has covered fires, but as someone who is in this situation right now, someone whose friends and family have lost their homes, I can't honestly give you that answer. I think time. I'm not sure how insurance companies are going to help in this situation. I'm not sure how state or federal help will come in. I think one of the things that's really scary that we're seeing right now in California is a response from a lot of other states, just politically, what's happening online. And I don't know how much of that is just social, drama and how much is real, but you're seeing a lot of hate towards California. And I have to say, when hurricanes happen in Florida, you don't see people blaming Florida, right? But right now, there's so much vitriol against California. And I don't think people realize how much of this really is due to the impacts of climate change. A lot of these environments are because of climate change, and that is not the fault of the leaders of any party who are running the state. And so I hope that as we move out of this situation in the coming weeks, we're able to see both state and federal response that can help people here, because the people are really the ones who are going to have to pay the price as we move forward. I've seen a lot of the businesses that we frequent, some of our favorite restaurants, our favorite stores, all burned to the ground. So the way this is going to impact communities, I'm having a hard time answering your question, Phil, because we're ready to evacuate. We're in it and we're at the edge of our seats and we're still living it, that I haven't even been able to wrap my head around how this might impact us in the weeks or months to come.
All right. Thanks to Aliya Jasmine for joining me on the Big Story podcast. Follow us on X at the Big Story FPN and leave your comments. You can also listen to the Big Story and other frequency podcasts like the Roz and Mocha Show on our Seeker app. That's SEEKR. Thanks for listening.